I'm Carrie.
I'm Toni, and we are.
Two Cranky Creatives.
This podcast is brought to you by the Graphics Gang, our online community you can find at patreon.com/graphics gang. Paid members can also watch many of the unedited podcast video recordings. What are we cranky about today, Toni?
Carrie, today we are cranky about clients who think we charge too much money.
I agree. That makes me so cranky. You don't even know. And it seems like clients who I feel like I run into a lot of clients who feel like I charge too much as a graphic designer, as an illustrator. And I thought it would get easier as my career went on, and it hasn't.
No, no. I think my very first graphic design gig was 1996. It has not changed. We're
Yeah.
almost 30 years later.
Yep. And I almost, one thing that I would love to talk about in this episode is the concept that, and I feel like I've run into this a lot. I have clients approach me, or potential clients. And again, they could be graphic design clients, they could be illustration clients. And they kind of have this unspoken idea that they could do this themselves with Canva or any number, or AI, or any number of other pieces of software that's out there, many of which that are free.
Right.
And the only reason they're not doing it themselves is that they don't have time and they haven't tried to do it themselves.
Right.
And fail. And then, so I feel like a lot of clients kind of come at me with the, can you throw this together real quick? And I quote.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like that's like the unrealistic expectations of the freelance client is a whole episode in and of itself. And to me, like, don't get me wrong, I'll use Canva. I have no problem with a Canva. You know what I'm saying? But what people don't understand, and this reminds me of conversations I used to have way back in the day when I was designing websites. Just because you know how to code HTML does not mean you know how to do it well or right.
Yep.
And so, yeah, Canva gives people the illusion of expertise. But I have seen so many people fuck up a Canva template. You know what I'm saying? It's like, A, I know you got that from Canva because I recognize it. And B, you done fucked it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Like you totally ruined it. So because they don't know design principles, they don't know good technique, they don't know layout, they don't know typography, they don't know any of those things. So they just see something they like and then they edit the hell out of it and they don't realize they've wrecked it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you can do it yourself, but will you do it well? Will you do it professionally? Will you still look like, branded and professional and all of those things? It drives me absolutely crazy. And I don't have time to argue with everybody about it,
But that's almost, it drives me crazy and it makes me cranky, but that's almost what you have to do, not argue. But I will tell you and everyone out there, I still run into clients or potential clients on a regular basis who think that I charge too much and try to nickel and dime me down, or who argue with me about, well, is it really going to take that long? Or, God forbid too, a lot of them it's hourly and they're like, well, can you not just do it in 4 hours, or can you not just do it in half an hour? And I can save money. And the thing is that, I feel like I have to spend a lot of time educating my clients on not just what I do and the value of what I do. They can't just, sit down and all of a sudden have a graphic design degree and know how graphic design works, or have even experience, even if, I didn't have a graphic design degree. They don't have the experience and they don't know the software that well. And the thing that's kind of hidden, and, we've talked about this on another episode, but there are a lot of back end pieces to being an illustrator and being a professional artist that no one sees. Like you have to pay your own taxes. You have to pay for your own health insurance. You have to pay for all your own supplies, your own advertising, your own marketing.
Right.
And all of that costs money,
Mhm.
not to mention the money you've already spent on your education,
Right.
on your training, on, the software that you've, spent time learning.
Mhm.
And I still have yet, and let me ask you this as a question, Toni. I still have yet to find a way to politely educate a client when they say, well, why are you charging so much? Or can't you just do it for cheaper? Or can't you just, do it in a shorter amount of time? I have a really hard time trying to figure out a polite way to say, listen, you are paying me for all kinds of things that you don't have. You don't
Mhm.
have my background. You don't have my software. You don't have the years of experience using this software. You don't have the years of experience with drawing and practicing drawing principles. I always feel like I'm being a jerk.
No, I mean, that's just honesty. I mean, like, I had to not get into it because obviously I was being very professional, but I was like, look, you're not paying me for my time. You can't compensate me for my time. You're paying me for my expertise. You're paying me for my experience. You're paying me for the fact that I have domain knowledge. You're paying me for the fact that I understand how to craft this content for you. And, that I understand branding principles, that I know typography, that I know these things. You are paying for my expertise. And quite frankly, you can't afford me.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? So, like, these are my rates.
Yeah.
Right now, if you want to, you are welcome to find somebody who charges less, and you are going to get what you pay for.
Right. That's the thing and that's really the nutshell way of explaining to a client who thinks you charge too much, why you are worth the money, why you should
Mhm.
be paid fairly, because you do get what you pay for.
Right.
And, they may come back to me and say, oh, okay, well, I paid my cousin $50 to do this. Can you fix it? And then I'm going to be like, no, 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 no.
No.
I
Mm-mm.
have to redo this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes me so cranky. I run into clients still, and I am, I've been a graphic designer for over 20 years, and I thought it would, get easier. Graphic design is more ubiquitous now in 2024. As far as it's always been around, but
Mhm.
people are more aware of it now. Like,
Yeah.
people didn't know what the word font was, I promise, like 10
Oh,
or
yeah.
15 years ago. If you said
Mhm.
font or typeface, most average people on the street would be like, what's that?
Yeah.
Now people know what that is. So
Mhm.
that can be dangerous because they think, oh, well, now that I know what a font is, I can go pick one and I can do this
Right.
myself. Why should I not just charge you for the time that it takes you?
Right.
But the thing is, it also means, and I thought it would mean that people value my work more because now they realize, oh, there is such thing as a font. You didn't just magically hit a button and all that typography just showed up there,
Yeah.
and it
No.
was the right typography for the project or whatever. So,
Yeah. No, that's like my dream world, you know what I'm saying? No, it's more like, oh, like, I know what a font is. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, but do you understand that there's a time and a place to choose a sans serif font, and there's a time and a place to choose a serif font, and there's a time and a place for a display font, and do you even know the differences between the three?
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yep,
So it's like, we've established you know what a font is, but can we go further? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, the thing that can, and I think I had this discussion with Mandy Corcoran when I interviewed her, but it's also kind of like a running theme because I have a bunch of artists locally that are we're all on Facebook. And, like, when I stopped having a rate sheet. Do you have a rate sheet?
not really. No, I
Yeah.
mean, it depends on the client. I used to.
Yeah, me too. I don't have a rate sheet anymore.
And
Now
for
everything.
anyone listening, do you want to explain really quickly, like what a rate sheet is, and then how you would present that to clients? I'm sure it's the same way I did. So
Yeah, well, for me, my rate sheet was like kind of like standard services I provided. So that might be logo creation or branding books or style guides, whatever the thing was, whatever the service was. And then I would have kind of like my average rate that I chose. And I would have some kind of like language that was like, this, rates are subject to change based on complexity or something like that, right? To give me like the wiggle room in case a project was like more significant than what I was and it would lay out kind of like what they got. So like if someone came to me for branding, they got their logo and they got basic social media graphics and they got, a style guide and all of these things for like their brand, and so it laid all that out along with my average rates.
And then you did that as a flat fee per piece, right? Or per project?
Usually, yeah.
Okay. And then did you ever have hourly rates on your
Yes.
rate sheets? And that was for mostly revisions and stuff like that, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I always included like 2 rounds of revisions, and you have to spell out what that means.
Right. That does not mean a revision does not mean a whole new, completely new concept and a new piece of art from scratch.
Exactly. Revisions. So usually I did 2 rounds of revisions. And then I would say for anything, outside of the scope or additional changes, here's my hourly rate, and that's when it'll kick in and apply. And then usually I didn't advertise that. It wasn't listed on my website or anything like that. It was upon request. Someone wanted to work with me and I would give them my rate sheet. I don't do that anymore.
So why don't you do that? I did the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and back you up. I used to do the same thing too. Why do you not do it anymore?
Because I thought it was making me more marketable, but it really wasn't. And it was putting me into a position where I was being held to, well, your rate sheet said this. And instead of like just getting what their project was and then providing them with an estimate or a quote that we could then negotiate.
Yeah.
Right. So it was actually, I would say I was leaving money on the table because there were times where I could have charged a lot more. Especially because if you're averaging out your rates, then it's an average. So, I do a lot of nonprofit work, and I'm never going to charge a nonprofit when I'm going to charge a private business, right? And so it was really taking money away from me. And so I no longer provide rate sheets. I just get specifics and I provide quotes.
Smart. Yeah. I used to have a similar process. I used to have a rate sheet or, my standard pricing guide. And yeah, I always had, flat rates for certain things. Like a logo would be a certain dollar amount for 3 logo design concepts and up to 3 revisions once you choose one of those. And then anything beyond that was my hourly rate. I learned that and here's the thing, I wish every client would do this. I have had clients do this. It's rare. But my favorite situation is when somebody approaches me for work, whether it's any kind of art, and they say, I want a, wedding invitation, or I want a poster design for this band show that I'm doing. I almost never get the right response, but I always try and I say, great, I'd be interested. What's your budget? Because even though you're not likely to get that answer out of somebody, there are some people who will just be straight up with you and tell you, usually those are the people that can't afford to pay much. But, for instance, if it's like a band and I know it's like this charity event, or this show that they're doing. I mean, often I'd probably do that kind of thing pro bono anyway. But if you're lucky, you can get people to tell you what their range is, or, if you can say, what's your budget, or do you have an idea of what range you're looking at? Most people don't want to do that because they're afraid if they tell you, I'm going to pay $1,000 for this, that's my budget, that's the total budget, you're going to go, okay, well, it'll be $1,000.
Yeah.
And, I guess some people do that. I always look at it like, well, I appreciate that. I'm not going to go up to the edge of your budget.
Yeah.
But that's a really good way to filter out people who don't want to pay as much as I would need to charge for a project. And then that kind of goes to I always now per project, this is how I do it. If someone approaches me, I'll say, okay, I get more details about it first of all. And then I'll give them a general ballpark for like, a flat rate and tell them what they would be getting. And I always overcharge like in my initial estimate, because if people don't like my price, it's rare that I get ghosted over that. Even if they don't answer me, I'll write back, oh, is that, does that work for you or whatever? And then they'll write me back and say, well, it's a little too much. But very often, some people are willing to pay more than you realize. And if you lowball yourself, you are stuck.
Correct.
That's the most you're ever going to make from that project.
Correct.
So
if I could go back to my like younger self, I would say whatever you think, whatever your rate you're going to quote, double it.
Yes.
But no, I have to say I have been very successful with people giving me their budgets. I like you, do not go up to the budget unless what they're asking for, their budget is just too low. You know what I'm saying? And then I will tell them like realistically, this budget is not sufficient for this project. So we have two options. We can talk about what your budget can actually buy.
Yeah.
Or, we need to like you might need to rethink your project, or I can refer you to other people and see if maybe, you can find somebody within that budget. But, the idea here, and so I've been on the other side of this, right? So, cause I've worked in corporate America for 30 years now, right? And, I've been in charge of budgets. I've done all of that stuff. My thing is if I have budgeted that amount for it, I've budgeted that amount for it. Right.
Right.
So like,
what are you going to do with the extra? Pocket it?
Right.
Isn't that embezzling?
So my thing is just like, okay, if you go right up to my budget, but I'm getting what I asked for, fine. I don't care. But like there's this idea like somehow and this is one of the things that makes me so cranky, is the idea that we, the creative, are shady somehow.
Yep.
Right. And I'm like,
that's a good point.
Like why first of all, why are we starting a professional relationship with this idea that I'm screwing you in some way because I asked you what your budget is?
Yeah.
You know what? And like I fire clients. I routinely fire clients. I turn people away. Yeah. I'm just at the point where I'm too fucking old for this shit. Yeah. Like I'm not doing this anymore. I don't have time for you. No.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I have now also, I feel like I can smell those kinds of clients coming. Mm-hmm. If they start out with like, well, I have this project, but I really don't have a lot of money, but I'm really hoping that like you can do that. And they're really like nitpicky from the get-go. And they already are like trying to just nickel and dime me before we've even started. They've even really described the project.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, no, I have a feeling, I usually just charge them way too much. Uh-huh. And then, if they say yes to that, I'm like, oh, well, then this will be worth my time.
Yeah. No, I had one of those recently. She did tell me her budget. She was though, just like, and then she started like, I was on vacation when this request came in. And so, and I have an out of office message saying I'm out of the studio. Right. But she's like, I haven't heard from you, like all this stuff. And finally I was like, can you set like, so finally I took time out of my vacation, right? Cause this is money.
No.
And I'm like, and I was just like to respond to her email and be like, sure, I'd like to talk more. Here are the questions that I have. I need more information. She finally sends it to me. And then, and again, she is repeatedly getting my out of studio message with all of this. And then she sent me kind of like, she wanted me to illustrate like this. It looked like maybe an engagement photo or something like that. And I was like, all right, I'm done. So, because I'm not a portrait artist. I don't do that. She found me through Illustrators for Hire, which I'm up for patterns. So why are you even contacting me? But, and I was just like, look, I respectfully decline. But it was just, and I sent her back to Illustrators for Hire and was like, you need to go to the portraiture category.
Right.
But it was like, I mean, like, her email just scrolled endlessly on my phone.
Oh my God.
I was like,
well, that is a red flag. Maybe we should have an episode about red flags with potential clients.
Yes.
Before you sign on to do a project, because I see two red flags right there in that interaction that I know you saw too. Number one, they don't respect your time because they know you're on vacation and they are like, my time is more valuable than yours. Why aren't you answering me?
Right.
And two, they are obviously not good at communicating or following instructions because if they didn't even know to like look for a portrait artist, even though it's very obvious on the Illustrators for Hire website that there's a whole section of amazing portrait artists. if they can't even do that, I don't even want to think about how they're going to be communicating to you what they want.
Right.
Or if they have changes, what they want those changes to be. That is such a red flag.
Oh yeah, for real. And at first, my first thought was, is this spam? Because of the way she came at me,
Yeah.
or like a scam. So like my first response was like, sure, I'm interested in talking more. Which pieces of my work caught your interest?
Yeah.
On Illustrators, And she came back and described it. I was like, okay, so she really did see my work, but like, this is so weird,
Yeah.
And then I was just like, no, I'm not doing this. But back to the whole pricing concept. So like I said, I do a lot of work for nonprofits. Number one thing that drives me bonkers is this idea that I should donate my time because they're a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Now I do a lot of donating my time to causes I find are worthy. Just recently, I was at I'm on a strategic team for my church, and we applied for a grant that we won, and we were there. It was like this dinner or whatever, and we had a forensic rape nurse practitioner. She's paying out of her own pocket to run this facility here in Wichita, because we don't have a lot of we do not have like Saints Art everywhere in this city. We're a little behind the times. I said that, but that's not actually, I mean, we don't have a lot of it, but like our local hospital actually is like the model nationally for how they run their program.
And this is for like if there's violence, like somebody is raped or assaulted, and then does like the rape kit.
You got to do the rape kit and the forensic exam, right? So she's running this like facility, and she's doing it completely out of pocket. And I went up to her, I gave her my card. I said, I'll donate my services to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because that's like, amazing. What a great cause.
Exactly. So like totally, like I'm down. I'm totally there. And then the other thing I do every year is I choose 2 up and coming entrepreneurs, because I remember what it was like, and I do their branding for free.
Wow.
So whatever, I'll do their branding, I'll do their packaging, whatever. I did a hair care company here in town. I did a local gourmet popcorn. I'm working with a hair salon, so like, but that's it. Like after that, I'm done doing my free shit.
Yeah.
That's
amazing though. I love that idea. I've never really thought to do that, but you're basically supporting local business, and you're adding, you're getting some portfolio pieces out of it too, of course, but you're doing something good for someone else. That's amazing.
Well, because really cool. I remember what it was to have $0.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, and it just so happens I'm a graphic artist. So I always did my own logos, and I always did my own, websites, and I did my book covers for my self-published books, but like not everybody's got that skill, and so it's like, okay, but I also am like, I had to go, like, okay, I'm done. Like, and for me to feel good, I guess, about myself, that I'm still like helping people, knowing what it was like when I got started, but at the same time not being like, everybody's coming to me for free stuff. It's like, nope.
Yeah.
Like, this is it. My quota's done. This is what I do. I'm not doing anymore.
So this is great. I had 2 ideas of things that I want to ask you now.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, I would love to talk about how you handle it when friends and family approach you. And number 2, I would love if we could briefly talk about and I know you're going to laugh when I say this, the curse that you put on yourself when you offer something at a discount in the beginning.
Oh, God.
So which do you want to talk about first? Because I just had those 2 ideas, and these all fall under the clients who think we charge too much, bucket or whatever, umbrella.
So the discount. Let's talk about that one first.
And I'll start really quick. So if anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, let's say you're either new to being a graphic designer or illustrator, or you're seasoned and you're having a slow period, or you're just panicking because the holidays are coming up and you realize you don't have any money for Christmas presents. We all go through that. I know what it's like to have that scarcity mindset, and you're kind of in the back of your head going, oh my God, I don't know where my next paycheck is coming from. And so somebody approaches you and you're like, and you're so excited. And then you think to yourself, I'm so excited that this project came along right when I needed it. And you tell them, hey, I'm going to give you a discount for this first, like, let's say it's a multi-part project. I'm going to do your logo at a discount, but then I'm going to charge you my rate for the website or for the graphics or for, the illustrations that editorial illustrations that'll be used for advertising. So that's what I'm kind of using it. And I'm assuming that's what you've run into as well.
So yes and no. So I'm going to say something that some people probably might get really upset with me about. um, so another part of my storied background is I worked in the diamond industry. Okay.
Which is so interesting. I still find that so fascinating.
So I have a diamond education, trained as a diamond expert, trained as a diamond grader. I worked for a diamond importer. And I learned very quickly that a lot of those sales are really not sales. Okay. So they are like, things get very marked up and then they discount, but then they're really discounting it to the actual market rate.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And so in my early days, I was mostly operating within a very confined community. So I got my start. This is going to be so weird. I got my start with the National Association of Women's Gymnastics Judges.
Wow. What have you not done?
Well, so here's the thing. We grew up in the gymnastics industry. My mother was a gymnastics judge. Oh. At 16, I became a gymnastics judge. It was the best part-time job ever. Cause like in 1980, if I was 16, 1986, I was making $15 an hour.
Wow.
Right? Judging gymnastics meets. I met Dominique Dawes, like all this stuff, right? So they needed a website. And so, of course, like I'm the one, they know my mother, like all of this stuff. So like, that's how I got my start. So I was doing all these gymnastics websites and I was just charging like, it was an untried industry. I would charge like $100 to like maintain their website every month.
And this was around what time? Probably
it was 96.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like the early days of the internet. So it's not like there were all these websites out there that were super sophisticated. I mean, you could throw something together. Not that your stuff was thrown together, but I'm just saying there was no real internet back then.
Exactly. Like, no, I mean, it was very much Web 1.0, you know? So like I said, I mean, I was just charging whatever.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't discounting per se because there was nothing to judge me by. Right. Mm-hmm. And so then over time, like, and then on the flip side of that, I'm working professionally as a web interface designer. And we're hiring back-end developers and we're doing these things for like the associations that I'm working for. And so I'm understanding what the market rates are. So then when it's time for me to branch out and go freelance again, and this was after my daughter was born, so 2003 or 4, that I started like a freelance gig, like again. I was saying I was discounting, but I wasn't discounting. You know what I'm saying? I was following the jewelry industry market of, well, because I know you can go to an agency. I'm always going to beat the agency because I would go look at I would pretend I was going to be like, client, what's your hourly rate? Like all this stuff. So I would always undercut the agencies. Mm-hmm. But in 2003, my hourly rate was $150.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and I'm just going to go up from there. Now, what I do get is the request for the friends and family discount.
Yes. Let's talk about that.
And so the friends and family, depending on what it is 50%.
Okay. Well, that's really generous of you.
It is. It's very generous. The first time.
Yeah.
Right. And the true honesty, Carrie, is there's never a second time.
Yeah.
They don't come back.
Well, because they really don't want to pay for, they don't want to pay for it.
Mm-mm.
And if they realize how much they actually should have been paying,
right.
I hope they appreciate it. But so I've run into the situation where, again, I'm, it's been a while since I've worked, or, it's just been a slow season, and I can't help it. I mean, I should know better by now, but I still panic sometimes. I'm like, I'll get a bill in the mail and I'm like, oh my God, or in my email. And I'm like, oh my God, where's my money coming from? I need some money to pay for this. And I don't like live paycheck to paycheck, but I know a lot of people do. And it's really easy to fall into the trap of feeling panicked. And then when you have a potential client come along, to just jump, not think about it, and just say yes. And you're like, any money is good money, and I don't care how much they're going to charge me. First of all, they can smell your desperation.
Absolutely.
And even if you don't think they can, even if you're just writing emails, you have no idea what comes through in your words. They can smell that.
Mhm.
And, most individuals or small businesses aren't going to be like, ooh, how can I take advantage of that desperation?
Mhm.
But they are going to want a discount, or they are going to try to nickel and dime your price down.
Right.
And if you're so excited, and it's okay to offer discounts, it's okay to
Mhm.
offer discounts to family and friends. Or if you feel like, you really do need the money and you're really stressed out and you're like, okay, well, this is a job that's only going to take me 3 days and
Right.
I don't have anything else going on that 3 days. I could really use the money. The problem, though, is that setting that expectation with that person you're working with or that company, that
Mhm.
client, is very dangerous, because if
Yeah.
you want to do any more work for them in the future, you're never going to be able to charge more than that. Now, you can try, but I've done that. I've tried. And even if I say, I'm going to go ahead and give you a discount because, and you can make up some reason. I mean, I love your, it's like, oh, I love your like company mission. It's not a nonprofit, but I'm like, oh, it's so cute. Or I love your stuff or
Mhm.
whatever. You can make up a reason,
Mhm.
but people are going to expect that price in the future. And
That's
I've
true.
had people push back on me and go, well, but you gave me this
Mhm.
first project at such a discount.
Mhm.
Can't you just do that? And I'll be like, no. And then, yeah, I won't hear from them again.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I try to keep them from calling me back if that's the way they're gonna be. So, like, what I'll do is I'll be very explicit and say, "I'll give you a one-time discount." I write that into the contract. "This is a one-time discount. It will not be offered again." That kind of thing. Because 'Cause I'm like, "We'll do the project, but if you're not gonna pay me in the future, I don't wanna talk to you anyway."
Yeah.
So, like, they just won't call me again, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And the other thing that I do too, because I want people to know, like, what I'm worth. So,
Good.
even with my nonprofits, I always start from my full price, right? So my nonprofit rate is 60% of my market rate. So I always put my full price. And then I have a line item that says nonprofit discount,
Nice.
right? And so
Yeah.
that way they always see what I charge,
Good.
right?
Can
So
you
that
do
they
that
know
with your discounts? Like if you do
always,
a first time discount? Yeah. That's
always.
good. So you are kind of mitigating the risk of setting the expectation upfront that you're not going to charge somebody very much.
Mhm.
And they don't know better. They don't know what you would normally charge. That's
Right.
really smart.
No,
So
always full price. I'm giving you this discount. And especially on the invoice and the quote, I say one time discount.
yeah.
Right. Like, because no, and I don't want to hear from you again if you're not going to pay me.
Yeah.
I get the portfolio piece. I get whatever, if you're really going to nickel and dime me anyway, you're probably going to be a shitty ass client.
Yes, I know. That's like right there. I mean, some clients, if they're going to nickel and dime you like that, then they're going to be difficult to work with.
Mhm.
And then even if they have revisions and stuff, they're going to just keep trying to squeeze you.
Right.
And you're never going to be able to educate these people. I mean, what is that phrase? Like why would you try to teach a pig to sing? It wastes
Right.
time and annoys the pig. Because I spent years trying to teach pigs to sing and trying to educate my clients, and they don't listen. They
Uh-huh.
don't care. And you know what? That's not their job. So
No.
I don't expect them to.
Mhm.
All I expect is for them to trust that I'm charging the dollar amount that I'm
Mhm.
worth, because I am worth that, and I am not trying to manipulate them. I am not a shady person. I am a
Mhm.
professional. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just, and I will tell you the way I handle friends and family now. This is going to sound so bad, and all my friends and family that are listening right now are probably going to be laughing. I just turn them away. Because I've done a lot of work for friends and family over the years, and I have a really hard time getting like asking for money from them. I
Mhm.
just feel weird doing it.
Mhm.
And so I always end up just giving them free stuff.
Uh-huh.
And the thing is that I don't mind giving like free stuff to a friend or a family member if they're going to be like, that's great. I love it. Thank you. But if they're like, okay, well, can you change this? And it turns into like a million revisions, like they're a nightmare client. I'm like, do you remember that I am not charging you for this? And
Yeah. Yeah.
again, it comes down to they're not aware of how much they would be paying me if they came in off the street, or how much they would pay another artist, whether it's an illustrator or graphic designer.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so friends and family, I think we're past that now. Like,
Yeah.
we're not like, no one's really asking me to do anything.
Yeah.
Um,
Me neither. It's
yeah.
been years.
Yeah, no, I think it's been about 2 years now because, especially when I launched Owl Medicine, and then it was like, "Oh, you can do this and you can do that." Like, I got commissions from friends and family right away, and I just charged them flat out, like, "That's a custom illustration. This is what I charge," and I did not discount those.
Yeah.
So, but then I got like a couple others where it was like, like lettering, which is not my specialty. And then it was like, okay, sure. I'm willing to give you the friends and family for that because it's not my specialty. Hand lettering is not my specialty.
Yeah.
But I got very fortunate that no one was really like bitchy or whining or like horrible about it. But
good.
the busier I got professionally, then, and I would get some requests and I'd be like, I'm really sorry, but this is something I charge for. And I'm not at a point in my career where I can do this for free anymore.
Yeah.
So like, if you like, we can talk about a discounted rate. I'll give you the friends and family, but I cannot do it for free anymore.
And I
usually they go away.
feel like I can't afford to do things at a discount anymore, because if I give somebody a discount, I am not paying a lower rate on my cell phone bill.
Right.
I am not going to the grocery store and finding these magical groceries that are cheaper than the ones everyone else is buying.
Right.
So if I'm going to discount something, it really ends up coming back on me, and I end up, unless it's something I really want to do, I end up regretting it.
Right. But I think that's to your point. I think that's what people aren't thinking about when they approach us as artists. It's just like, oh, that's my cousin, or that's my friend, or whatever, and yeah, she can do that. But they're not thinking now. Obviously, I have the benefit of a full-time job. I very distinctly do that so that I can say no to people. There's a reason. But my business still has to pay for itself.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? So like, I still have costs. People aren't thinking about that. So, cause I'm let's just, so I have an MBA. So like, let's approach this from the business standpoint for just a second, right? When you cost something out, you are supposed to include all of your costs first.
Right.
And so if we just looked at that purely, the question starts to become, well, am I including my Creative Cloud subscription? Am I what costs am I including in that? So like, thank God for things like the Graphic Artists Guild handbook for pricing.
Yes.
So, so like having those guidelines is really important, but even that doesn't really capture things. Like I said, I've got a Creative Cloud subscription. I've got my web hosting subscription. I've got my email subscription. And we're not even talking about like what I've paid for in training.
Yeah.
Like we haven't encompassed the fact that I took Leverage Art. Right. Yeah. Like, how do I include that in the cost of what I'm charging? Right. Like nobody
and
thinks
it's so abstract. It's like, I have a degree in graphic design. But it's such an abstract concept. It's like, I can put a dollar amount on how much I pay on my Creative Cloud subscription.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I guess I could put a dollar amount on how much I spent on my graphic design degree, but the stuff that I learned is there's really no way to attach a dollar amount. It's pretty priceless.
Right. The other thing that doesn't come into play very well is your experience, right? Like I charge very differently now than what I charged back then. But nobody's thinking about for instance, like I have 30 years in the industry.
Yeah.
Right. You can't truly afford my expertise.
Yeah.
Like if I charged you what I'm worth, you can't afford it. Yep. So like nobody's thinking about that.
No.
And how do you even encompass that in a charge? Right.
Yeah. I always love trying to, because I don't know if you do this, and I've gotten better about it, but I still have the self-doubt sometimes, even though I know what I'm worth and I know everything that I've learned and I know what I pay for, maybe because I'm an artist, I'm, more introspective, but I still sometimes struggle with self-doubt because I'm like, oh God, I got to price this out. And are they going to want to pay this? And I really would like to get this job. And I'm afraid to like send a dollar amount. I always try to remind myself and step outside myself and say, what if I went to a mechanic? Because, and I like to use like a car mechanic as an analogy, because there is a very special set of skills, not that there aren't for every other, profession, but for some reason this resonates with me. A car mechanic, the person who's going to fix your car, has to have a very special set of skills. They also have to have a very special set of tools.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't go to the, shop with my car and say, hey, can you just do this for like $50? That's
Right.
all I have.
Right.
And if I did do that, the mechanic would say, no, goodbye.
Right.
And that's the thing, is more of us, I think, need to have that mindset of, look, we do have a special set of skills. We do have a special set of tools. Not everyone has that. The person asking us for this work doesn't have that. And they wouldn't, do that to the mechanic. I mean, I guess they could, but they wouldn't get their car fixed.
Right.
And then they could try to get their cousin to fix their car, but their cousin may be doing it with a wrench that they bought at the dollar store, and they did it upside down and backwards because they don't know what they're doing because they've never done it before.
Exactly. Which goes back to my original point about like the Canvas of the world.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And and again, I want to go on record. I love Canva. I think it's great. I think it's
I have never used Canva ever.
Really?
Oh, is that weird?
No, it's not. It's not. It's so for me, it's funny because I like to look at the layouts on Canva. It's a great inspiration for me. So I would go and I would look and see like, oh, this poster layout's really cool or something like that, because it's a whole bunch of graphic designers. It's basically like iStock photo for graphic design. So like a whole bunch of graphic designers feed their designs into Canva, royalty free. I'm sure there's a payment system somewhere on the back end. And you can then go use these designs. Same concept with Adobe Express, right?
Yeah.
So it's great. But the problem is, for the untrained person, they're going to screw it up unless they do nothing more than change the text and the images, and they change absolutely nothing else. Right.
Yeah, but then your template looks like everyone else's, and it's obvious where you got it from.
Oh, exactly. Like there's a hair salon on my dog walking route. They have this big banner right outside of the, like it's like the banner with the name of the salon. And I'm like, Canva, I've seen that. That was Canva. You know what I'm saying? But you know what? More power to them if they're just getting started and they can't afford it.
Yeah.
More power to you. It's better than like the Word, business cards I used to see back in the day where they designed their business card in Word,
PowerPoint.
Right?
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is, because there is a Canva in the world, there is, there are these tools out there, which, by the way, Canva is getting more complicated. And I also have clients that want me to design in Canva because then they're going to use Canva to print it out. Right.
And maybe they want to be able to edit it too.
They want to be able to edit it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's fine. So I don't have a problem with that. But it lends this confidence, right? Same thing with like Wix and Squarespace. More power to you with the WYSIWYG website creators and all that other stuff. But they're still screwing it up. They're still screwing up their website design. They're still screwing up their information architecture. They're still not getting it right, because the implication of these tools is that anybody can do it.
Yeah.
And so I always go back to what I said. You may be able to create it, but will you create it right?
Yeah.
People can self-publish novels right now, and we got a shit ton of trash on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can spot a self-published book a mile away.
Yeah.
First of all, they're all going to have scripty little titles. They're all going to have shitty photos. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's terrible.
Yeah. Papyrus.
Right. Exactly.
Curls. Actually, no, Curls is the font everyone uses for their jewelry store. I love, we should have an episode about fonts. I wonder if that's going to be too weird for our audience, because I have strong opinions about typography.
So do I. Oh my God. I think it's been my mission in my entire corporate career to get people to understand that a page is an interface. And trust me, I could wax poetic on this forever. I'm like, have you ever heard of Edward Tufte?
No.
Oh my God, Carrie, I'm such a fangirl for him. So he is like this guy. He takes big data. So his book was like visualization. Oh, I can't even think of the name of it right now. But basically, he takes big data and he visualizes it. And so he, like, the first time I ever saw him, he did. I went to a webinar, not a webinar, excuse me, like a whole day workshop that he did, and his whole presentation was about how if they had just used a different graph, they would have known Challenger was going to explode. Right.
Oh my God. Oh, is he the one who did the hanging Chad thing?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Because I know someone who was a graphic designer showed how the ballot was designed and how it was really confusing back in God knows what year that was, with the voting and the hanging Chad with the punch card voting.
Yeah.
The problem was interpreting it and trying to like parse out who people were voting for based, I guess it was Al Gore was running against Bush, but I think. But it was like, if that had been designed differently, it wouldn't have been such a problem to say, oh, okay, no, this is who they voted for, even with a little piece missing or the little piece that didn't get punched out correctly or whatever. So,
right. Yeah. I'm not sure if it was him. It could have been, but like he does, I would call him the father of the infographic. Right.
Oh, nice.
So like he did this like really cool visualization of like rappers' vocabularies. I mean, it was just like, things like, and I'm making it up because I don't remember the actual stats, but like, number of unique words in their songs, and Jay-Z will have like 200 or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like he did this whole thing. He's definitely worth like a trip down his website.
You should get in touch with him. See if he wants to be a guest.
I might. I totally fangirled on him the last time. I got him to sign all my books and everything like that. So, but so where was I going with all this? I don't really remember because I have been drinking the wine now for a little bit. But
we were just talking about like the expertise behind what we do.
Right.
I mean, how important it is, and how not everybody, a lot of people think if they have Canva,
right,
that they can just, design whatever they need to design, and they don't realize that the information, because graphic design and illustration, you're solving a problem, you're communicating a message, you're conveying information.
Right.
And there are great templates out there, I'm sure, in Canva, and there are AI can generate illustrations now,
Yeah, not well,
but that doesn't mean they're going to look right. And I don't mean like a person with 8 fingers on one hand. I mean, they're going to really look bad. And sometimes it takes a trained eye to notice that, and it definitely takes somebody with training to be able to fix it or just use it as inspiration and create something from scratch.
Right. So, I volunteer for our local SCORE chapter. And for people that don't know what that is, SCORE, I don't remember what it stands for. It's like Society or something of Retired Executives. But basically, every state has them. And if you are a new entrepreneur, you can go to SCORE and you can get a mentor, and they will help mentor you through starting and launching your business. And so I'm a subject matter expert for them on branding. And so I teach a workshop about branding to local budding entrepreneurs.
That's cool.
And because my thing is, so I'm an advocate of the ARM method for brand development. Which
what does ARM stand for?
Attention, responds, oh God, Carrie.
Attention, response,
meaning, and memory.
Oh, meaning. Okay.
Meaning and memory. So it's ARMM.
Okay.
And so I have, me being me with names, I call it well-armed, be well-armed in your branding. But so, and it goes through kind of like, I go through the techniques you can use and to harness science behind brand recognition. And people don't, this is the thing that I'm saying, like, you're not paying me for my time, you're paying me for my expertise. Like, you may not understand like the techniques that go into creating not just a cute logo, not just a pretty logo, but an effective logo, which has science behind it. That includes the science of font, shape, and color, right? And like how we respond autonomically to these things. People don't, unless you're nerdy like we are about this stuff, You don't know this.
Yeah.
And so, like, I always tell people, especially prospective clients, illustration and graphic design are two different beasts,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Like, it's
Yeah.
completely different. Like, so, like, especially graphic design, I say, because especially the clients, when they start going down the path of telling me their favorite colors, I don't care about your favorite color.
Yeah.
I do not care. Don't even you can tell me what you absolutely hate, but I don't care about what you love. Okay. And the reason I always tell them is like, because what you love may not be what responds to your audience.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's not about you. You're trying to create a brand.
Exactly.
And you're hiring me or you to create that brand, but you have to know your audience.
Exactly. And so the fact that you love purple may be the absolutely wrong color for your banking institution.
Oh, it
Okay.
definitely is. I can tell
Right.
you right now.
Right. But,
Unless it's
but
like Royal King Bank of
right.
America or something.
But people don't know that there is a science behind this stuff.
Yeah.
And I know Photoshop, you don't, right? Like and you don't know these tools, and you want this thing, and you don't understand why you shouldn't have a gradient right there. And, and you're not thinking about scalability, and you're not thinking about, you're not, because you are not the trained expert.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Carrie, as trained experts, we walk into that mechanic and we go, you're an expert.
Yes.
Right.
Well, we know how to approach a mechanic or anybody we want to hire as a client, because we know what it's like on the other side of the table.
Exactly. But the difference between us and the mechanic when it comes to the layperson is the car is tangible.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That's what I believe. I think it's because the car is tangible. My, muffler
And the car can be a death trap if it's not fixed right.
that too as well. But when you like someone they don't care about the cost of my Adobe subscription.
Right.
Right. But the cost to replace a muffler is tangible. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. And you can dicker around on, the labor charges. Right.
Well, I will tell you this though, with like for instance, auto parts, people can get on Amazon and they can go onto eBay Motors and or they can go to Pull Apart or whatever, which is a place where you can get, pieces of cars that were taken off of them. And they can be like, well, I can get a muffler I would imagine some people try that where they're like, well, you're charging me $800 for this muffler, but I can get one for $25 on eBay. I would be interested to hear how a mechanic would respond to that. I mean, I would imagine, I feel like they would say, well, fine, go get that muffler, bring it to me, and then I'll put it in your car. But, then they can't guarantee their work because they didn't provide the part.
So that's a yes and no. My husband has a good relationship with a couple of mechanics. Now, where he's bought the parts, but he has to make sure he's buying like the OEM certified, whatever, like not some reseller part. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we also have pretty good mechanics that they'll give us our options, and they'll tell us, go look, choose what you want me to do, that kind of thing. But you're absolutely right. Right. And I think the fact that even to this day, especially graphic design for the most part, it's digital until they print it out. You know what I'm saying? It's digital. It's information. It's ones and zeros, on a computer screen somewhere. And the fact, I'm guilty of walking through an art museum and seeing that like some, abstract piece of art that's like a circle and a square and going, I could paint that.
Until you realize you're not Mark Rothko.
Right?
Yeah.
But,
I've done it too, though. I mean, it's hard not to. I think everyone does that.
Right. And it's about respect. And I think what I have found in the 30 years that I've been doing this rather, is that when someone's approaching you with respect.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're willing to talk to you. They're willing to answer your questions. They're willing to hear what what you're going to charge. If if it's outside of their budget, they're willing to have a conversation with you. Versus like just the demanding client that has like 15,000 things they want and is like, well, why are you charging so much?
Yeah.
Like don't get me started.
And when someone says, why are you charging so much? Which I have been asked that question, I feel like once they ask that question, that I don't even want to answer it, because even when I tell them why,
Mhm.
they don't care and they're not going to listen.
Right.
But I will say that my solution to when someone says, well, can you do it for cheaper, or why are you charging so much? And that is the attitude that you're being approached with. You need to think
Mhm.
about whether or not you want to really work with this person, because this is not going to be 2 emails back and forth and you're done. This
Right.
is going to be possibly a long project that you have to be willing to put up with.
Right.
And also, and I do this all the time, I have to check myself and step back and take a breath and go, where am I in my head right now? Am
Mhm.
I freaking out because I haven't had any calls in a while, or because I haven't
Mhm.
had anybody ask me for work in a while? Or am I so excited about doing this project that I'm jumping the gun and I'm not really thinking about how much this truly should cost, because it's going to be time consuming? So I have to constantly check myself. And then when I approach the client, or, get back to the client, if I just have that mindset, and I hate to say mindset because it's such a cheesy buzzword, but it's true. If I have that mindset of like, I'm worth this money, even if I'm desperate right now, even if I'm, starving or whatever, or even if, like, I'm just not feeling confident that day, I
Mhm.
still have to remind myself I am worth this, because just because I'm having a slow period doesn't negate my background. It doesn't
Right.
negate my experience. It doesn't erase everything I already know how to use with the software.
Right.
So, yeah.
For me, I hear what you're saying, and I definitely went through a period like that early in my career. Maybe this comes from a point of privilege because I have always worked full time. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, but I always remember the story I heard about Sidney Poitier, right? The actor.
Yeah.
And so, and we've got some younger people now, they may not know who he is. Very famous Black actor. And he was being asked to take these roles that he felt were demeaning. He wanted to portray a Black man with dignity, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the 50s and 60s. And so he went to read for a part, and it was like thug number 2 or something like that, something
Oh
beneath
God.
him.
Something really horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had $10 in his bank account, and he turned it down, and he had to go tell his wife he turned down this part that, was going to pay him when he had $10 in his bank account. And the next role he got offered, and I can't remember the time frame, I wanna say it was, like, the next day or the next week, but it was something very proximate to that. He got offered a Raisin in the Sun.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like, so and you can look at that a couple ways. Like if he had taken the job, yeah, he would have gotten paid, but he wouldn't have been available to do a Raisin in the Sun,
Yeah.
right? And also he would have, you know, cost him his self-respect for what he was doing, you
And
know?
if people knew how much he was paid for that thug number 2 role,
Mhm.
the word gets around. They might say, "Oh, well," they may not have called him for a Raisin in the Sun. They may have thought,
Mhm.
"Oh, well, he doesn't think he's worth that."
Right.
And also, if someone else wanted to, hire him, they might be like, "Well, he only charged $10 or whatever,
Right.
this low amount, so I
Right.
don't have to pay more than that." You have to be
Exactly.
careful what you set with your expectations. You don't know who talks.
Right.
Be surprised.
Right. I mean, and let's just break it down for like a second. A Chanel purse, they charge $15,000 for some of those purses.
Yeah.
It does not cost 15,000. It does not even cost $7,500 to make that purse.
It probably doesn't cost $75 to make that purse. Well, maybe.
Exactly.
Maybe it
It
does. I don't
Right,
know.
I mean, with leather and some of the things, yeah, I'd be willing to say probably there might be a couple $100 in there for some of their really fancy ones, but it definitely doesn't cost 15,000, right? That's
Right.
brand recognition, that's name,
Yeah.
yes, I will go on record and say a Chanel purse is constructed a hell of a lot better than, Target purses.
Oh, yeah.
Like absolutely. You are paying for that, but it is not $15,000 worth of better,
Right.
right? That is something else altogether. And I think that especially for people who are getting started, I mean, no, if you only have been in the industry for 2 years, no, you can't charge Chanel prices. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't even try. But again, my rule of thumb would be whatever you think you need to charge, double it and
That's
then
such good
negotiate
advice.
back,
I agree. I concur. I love that.
you know?
Yes. Because
Always.
you're never going to charge as much as you should be charging. Trust me.
Exactly.
Unless you're just like, okay, I'm just going to pull a number out of the hat. But if you sit there and we artists are just notorious for undervaluing ourselves because a lot of people undervalue us.
Mm-hmm.
And that again comes all back to mindset. So
Exactly.
it's like, remember that you are worth it. Remember that even if you don't have a degree, even if you haven't been doing this for very long, you still have more knowledge and a better eye than the average person, and especially than the person who's asking you to do this. Otherwise, they wouldn't be asking you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's wrap it up for everybody. What are we really saying? One, yeah, some clients, they're going to come at you. They're going to try and undercut you. They're going to try and get you to discount. Approach every single one of those situations scrupulously and decide where you're willing to do it. My personal recommendation is if you do decide to discount for people, make it clear what the terms of that discount are. If it's a one-time discount, if it's I'm always going to give you this discount, make it clear, write it out in whatever documentation you're using for that, but always show what you charge full price. Always document what your full price is so they can never say they didn't know.
I love that. And I guess my final thoughts would be, try to remember that just because you're feeling what's called a scarcity mindset, scarcity meaning, because I'm a freelancer, I've been a freelancer for years. Even in the film industry, I was a freelancer for 16 years. That's a tough life. It's tough when you really genuinely do not know where your next dollar is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But don't operate in the mindset that you don't know where your next dollar is coming from. Just fake it till you make it, even if it's in your own head,
Mm-hmm.
because your confidence will show through. You are worth what you are charging. And if you have that attitude, it's not an attitude. I mean, it's not like you're not being arrogant. If you have the attitude that, you know what, I am worth this. I know how to do this. I can make this look really, really good. If you just kind of have that feeling within your gut, all your interactions, you don't have to sit there and, rewrite your emails 70 times. You can just approach it like, hey, I am worth this. Come at it like you are valuing yourself. And if you value yourself, potential clients are going to value you in turn. And it works. I do it. I mean, I have to fake it till I make it sometimes. I promise.
We all do.
But it works. It works.
Mm-hmm.
I do it to myself. And I'm like, I don't know where this stupid little voice in my head is going with this. I'm just having a bad day. So I'm just going to tell that little voice to shut up. And I'm going to be like, nope, I know what I'm doing and I can do a good job on this. And that's the end of the story.
That's right. So to wrap it up, remember, you're worth it. That's all there is to it.
Yes. You're worth it. Is that L'Oreal?
Yeah, I know. Maybe she's Maybelline.
Oh,
what is
yes.
L'Oreal?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
It's a makeup.
You're worth
company.
it. Is that
You're
CoverGirl?
worth it either way. I love that.
We'll have to figure it out. Awesome. Well, I think that's a wrap. If you're loving this podcast, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, we'd love it if you could rate and review us. Your support helps more people discover the show and it keeps us going strong. Thanks for tuning in. It means a lot. I'm Toni.
And I'm Carrie. It's okay to be cranky.
In the meantime, keep creating.